This is the Nexar Beam dash camera. This is the 2021 model that has GPS. And I'd been wanting to test a Nexar dash camera for a long time because, well, these guys are one of the major players in the dash camera industry and they have a really good reputation. Now that being said, I have to start this review off by saying that this is the most confusing dash camera I have ever tested. It's confusing in just about every single way, and I'm going to get into that later, but I figured I'd start off by talking about what makes this dash camera good, and that's the video quality. So, the Nexar Beam actually has the best quality 1080p video that I've seen in any of the dash cameras that I've tested so far. And the reason for this is that they are recording to the SD card at about 15 megabits per second. That's a lot better than the 10 megabits per second that pretty much all of the other dash cameras I've tested have been recording at. Now 10 megabits per second is simply not enough for 1080p video. And what that means is that in other dash cameras you just get a lot of compression artifacting, you get a lot of muddy imagery in moving objects. You lose a lot of detail in street signs, license plates, and anything with detail just becomes a bit of a muddy mess at 10 megabits. But on this dash camera at 15 megabits per second, it does a really good job of preserving details. Everything remains sharp. I don't see anywhere near as much compression artifacting as I would on any other dash camera. So, image quality I think is really, really good, at least for clarity and sharpness. The night vision on this, very good as well. It does a very good job recording in dark environments. If I had to have one minor complaint, it would just be that at night the shutter speed does slow down a bit, so things do get a little blurry. There's some motion blur on the text of signs going by and license plates and things like that. But that's to be expected from any camera at night, right? I mean, you have to lower the shutter speed. The only thing I could really complain about in terms of video quality would be the dynamic range. The dynamic range is not that great, but luckily the camera's smart enough to know what to expose for. So if you're driving along on a cloudy day, you may notice that the clouds get blown out a lot. One other beef that I do kind of have with the video, however, is actually the audio recording. The audio recordings on the Nexar Beam are probably the worst I have ever heard in any dash camera. Take a listen to this.
All right, this is a test of the microphone, just checking to see how it sounds. Testing 1, 2, 3, testing 1, 2, 3.
So as you can tell, you could hardly hear me. Now in the last dash camera that I reviewed a couple of weeks ago, it actually had a fantastic microphone on it. When I would talk in this same vehicle, going down the same roads, you could hear me and my passengers clear as a bell. But in this dash camera, it's just not picking up audio very well. Now we're going to get to what I call confusing thing number one. Now at the bottom of the screen, you see a little timestamp. You see the date, you see the time, but what's missing? What's missing is the vehicle speed. The Nexar Beam 2021 model has a GPS unit in it. It should know your speed, and I'm going to talk about the settings later, but trust me, I have scoured the settings. There is no way to make this camera actually show your speed in the timestamp bar. I don't know why that would be. It kind of defeats the purpose of having the GPS, but there it is. It just shows a timestamp, no speed. Additionally, there doesn't appear to be any way to change the time from military time to AM, PM, so that's not a big deal. But I think for a lot of people, not having the recorded speed probably is a big deal. So the Nexar Beam gets top rankings when it comes to 1080p video quality. But now we get to confusing item number two, and that's the design of the dash camera. If you read the marketing materials or the description of this dash camera, it will say that it has built-in GPS. That would be incorrect. This is the GPS unit right here. It is not built in. It is an external GPS unit that kind of looks like an afterthought because it was just stuck onto the suction cup mount here. The main power to the dash camera plugs in to the top of the GPS unit, and then out of the GPS unit is another cable that runs into the dash camera. It's kind of a sloppy design and it doesn't look particularly clean. And this GPS unit is a significantly large piece of this entire ensemble. Now, talking about the mount, this camera uses a suction cup mount. Most dash cameras use a permanent sticky mount, and they will have like a mounting plate that the camera itself clips into. Not this one. This one has a much easier to remove suction cup mount, and that may be good or bad depending on how you are using your dash camera. If you are moving it around a lot or having to remove it from the windshield to hide it every now and then having this is very, very convenient. The downside, however, is that, well, Nexar attempted to make a small dash camera here, right? This is a relatively small body compared to most dash cameras. But because they went with a suction cup mount, they effectively doubled the size. The suction cup mount itself is as big as the camera. So, you know, I don't know why they would have done that. I think if you're going to design a small dash camera, you should have a small mount. Okay, moving on to the body of the dash camera. There's no screen on the Nexar Beam. The back of it is just a big rectangle that's blank plastic with two little LED lights down here, and that's it. The problem I have with this is that it looks like it should have a screen, right? I mean, if you're going to design a dash camera that is screenless, use that to your advantage and change the body style up so that your dash camera is less obnoxious when it's mounted in your car. Now, related to the body design of the camera is, well, what I call confusing thing number 3, and that's how this mounts to your windshield. So obviously it has the suction cup, as I mentioned before, and when you stick this onto the windshield, you have to twist the GPS unit like so in order to lock it into place. This pulls back on the suction cup, creating maximum suckage so that this thing sticks really nice and tight, otherwise it'll just fall off. So you have to twist it like so. Now, first of all, when I first got this, I didn't understand that. I'm sitting here trying to figure out how in the world do I make it lock into place. Now, in the camera's defense, there was information about this in the quick start guide, but you know, who reads those? I was sitting here trying to figure it out, and eventually I did figure out that, oh, I have to twist this. I thought, well, that's really a little bit odd because you have to have this power cable attached to it when you're mounting it, right? I mean, you're going to have the app running on your phone, and you need to be able to see what the dash camera sees so that you can mount it correctly and, you know, get it lined up. But when you have this like this, your cable is just kind of flying around, and it creates a radius of collision zone around it. In other words, you can't put this too close, say, to the sensor cluster on your vehicle, because when you're doing it, it'll hit on the left. And then you can't have it too close to the headliner at the top of your car, because once you rotate it into position, it's going to hit at the top. So you've just got this weird thing that you have to deal with. And additionally, you have to make sure that there's enough slack in the power cable to be able to make this turn. So now let's talk about the Nexar app that you install on your phone in order to set up and use the Nexar Beam. Now here's the good thing. The Nexar Beam has its own built-in Wi-Fi network. And that means to connect to it, all you got to do is you go on your phone, you find that Wi-Fi network, you connect to it, you run the app, it connects up, everything works really smoothly. That's really the first non-confusing part about this whole dash camera. That part works great. Now, when the app launches up, you're going to see this. You're going to see a list of what they call clips and full drives. Now, here's the problem, and this is confusing item number 4 about this whole dash camera, and that is, why in the world does it work the way it works? The dash camera is constantly, and I mean full-time, recording video, sending it over Wi-Fi to your phone while you're driving. I don't have any idea what the purpose of this could be, because there's no reason why you should have all of your video constantly being sent over Wi-Fi to your phone. All that does is it drains your phone's battery. It uses up a tremendous amount of storage on the phone, and frankly, you don't need these videos 99.9% of the time. I mean, how often do you witness an accident or something else that you need to actually save that video, right? Hardly ever. But it doesn't matter, because this dash camera is constantly sending this video to your phone. But here's the thing, it's not sending the high quality 1080p 15 megabit version of the video that's on the SD card. What it's sending over is a low quality 720p, And I believe it's only, I got to check my notes here, 4.2 megabits per second. It's a very low quality version copy of the video. And it sends it over, but it doesn't always work. Here's the weird thing. So let's select a video here. Let me select this one. Now it has a thumbnail, nice clear thumbnail. You tap it, and well, there's a map of my route. I know the GPS was working, but there's no video for it. There's just no video here. That's weird. Well, let me go to the video up here that doesn't have a thumbnail. It just has this little Nexar icon up there. I tap that, and whoa, what's this? Well, lo and behold, there's the video of that drive. And if I swipe over, well, nothing happens on this one. Let's go to a different one. Let's try this one. Oh, well, this one also only shows me a route. You have to hunt around because sometimes it'll show you both. This one only shows me a route, no video. Let's go down to here. Route, no video. Here's a blank icon. Let's try that one. Route, no video. Let's go way down here. Let's see what this one was. Well, oh, there's video of that one and a route. So as you can see, sometimes it records the video onto the phone. Now I know it's always recording it onto the dash camera. It's on the SD card, but it doesn't always transfer it over here. And here's the thing. There's no way with the app to manually download the full resolution copy off of the camera. So say you're out somewhere and you do get into an accident and you need to get a copy of this video to give to the police or to give to the other witnesses or the other driver, anybody. Well, you can't do it because you might have the low resolution copy here on the phone. It might have streamed that down, maybe, but as you can see, most of the time not. But if you want the full 1080p high quality version, there's no way to get it off there. You have to pop the SD card out, take it over to a computer, and then get it off of the card that way. So I don't understand why this works the way it works. I don't understand why there's no way to download the full 1080p original file off the dash camera using the app. I don't know why you would ever want it to be continuously recording and saving these 720p low quality copies. And here's the other thing. So the clips tab, okay, say you did want to share one of these low quality recordings. Let's try to find one here that actually has some video. I mean, it's very hard because most of these do not have video. They just are showing me the route. We could be here all day trying to hunt for an actual video. Well, like I say, this isn't going to help you out in the field. It just doesn't work most of the time. But when it does work, the idea with the clip is that you cannot share this full drive. Will not let you do that. What you do is you go in here and you save a couple of minutes of it as a clip. And then the clip you can export, to your photos folder on your iPhone or share it with other people. It's a very confusing and complicated process that doesn't make sense. Now it goes a little further than this. The Nexar Beam also has a free cloud service. So in addition to these low quality videos being constantly downloaded from the dash camera to your phone is then constantly uploading those same low quality recordings to the cloud. I'm going to talk more about that at the end of this video, but suffice to say for now it doesn't work, just like this doesn't seem to work. Okay, so let's move on. Now if we go over to More, which is Settings, we're going to see a few things. Now groups, let me just talk real briefly about this. I never set this up, I didn't have a need for it, but what groups allow you to do is, say your kid is driving your car. You can set this up basically where you get notifications if something happens. So if they're in a wreck and the dash camera detects it, and their phone is also connected to the dash camera, it will send it to the cloud. The cloud will then send you a notification saying, hey, I think your kid just crashed. The settings for the Nexar Beam are what I'm going to call confusing thing number 5. And it's confusing because, well, not only just the way it's set up, but also just the lack of settings. Now let me show you what I mean. All right. the first setting you'll see here is just auto start and end drive. Now this one makes kind of sense. This is the feature where it's streaming constantly to your phone, right? By default it's on, so by default it's just using up storage on your phone and everything else. You can turn that off. And that way it's only recording to the SD card on the device itself. Fine. Then there's an option that says, I drive an electric car. What the hell does that have to do with anything? I don't know. Mute alerts, fine, that makes sense. Set up Siri. Okay, this camera does have a cool feature where you can use Siri to control it. So you can use Siri to say start and stop a drive if you're not using this auto mode. You can tell Siri, okay, record an incident, things like that. Kind of useful, that's nice. Phone storage. Like I said, this thing is constantly streaming data to your phone and it's using up a lot of memory on your phone. Here's where you can set how much of that memory it uses up. Okay, 20%, 50%, or 70% of your available storage. Why? I mean, why would anybody want to use up all of that storage space on your phone for useless video clips? It doesn't make any sense. I don't know why it does that. All right, finally we get to the actual camera settings themselves, and this is in external camera. You tap that, and this is it. This one page is all of the settings available for the camera. Most dash cameras have just a huge list of options for setting things, but this is it here. Record with camera, that's the first toggle switch. This is a dash camera. I bought it to record video. Record with camera, why would anybody turn that off? Does somebody just want the audio? The audio is terrible on this camera. I don't understand this at all. But there it is. There's an option to tell it to not record with the camera. All right, camera sounds. The camera does beep a little bit, but it's usually generally good information, so I leave that on. Audio recording. As we saw earlier, or heard earlier, the audio quality in this camera is horrifically bad. But, so you can turn it off, even though it's not going to really pick up much anyway. Camera preview. This shows you a live feed of the camera, so you can use this to align it and aim it where you want it. And then finally at the bottom there's camera update. This is to do firmware updates over the air to update the camera. Pretty straightforward. That's it. I mean, that is it for settings on the device. There isn't even an option to format the SD card. Now when I got this, it came with an SD card. I put it into the camera and I was driving around for about 3 days collecting test footage. I decided I had enough. I popped the SD card out. I went over to my Mac and I just put it in and got an error message. My Mac would not read the SD card. I guess it was corrupt. The device, the app, nobody told me that the card was corrupt. I guess it just wasn't ever writing to it. So I went back, put the SD card back in the dash camera, hoping I could reformat it. And I went here and I realized there's no way to reformat the SD card. So I had to go back to the computer, I went back to the Mac, I ran disk utilities, and I had to manually format the SD card on my Mac. Why is there no way to do that? Like I say, this is confusing item number 5 here. Why are there so limited settings? And why is there no way to format the SD card on the thing? Every dash camera in the world allows you to format the SD card. This one does not. So, I mean, it's missing basic stuff, and it's also missing any kind of settings for, say, the parking mode. So this camera does have parking mode. It has a battery backup, and what happens is when your car turns off and the power is cut to the camera, it goes into parking mode, and it just sits there waiting for somebody to hit your car. It has a motion sensor, a little G sensor. And if it detects a hit, it turns on momentarily, it records video. Most dash cameras that have this, pretty much all dash cameras that have this, have a setting for sensitivity. How sensitive do you want these impacts to be? It's usually, low, medium, high, or maybe just low and high and off, because you might not want to have parking mode enabled for whatever reason. This one does not have that. I wasn't even sure if this dash camera had parking mode at first because there was no mention of it in here. But it's there. It's just always on, and there's no way to configure it, and there's no way to really configure much of anything. Like I say, there's no option to change the timestamp bar. There's no option to show your speed in the timestamp bar. There's no option to get rid of the large Nexar logo in the upper left-hand corner. There's just no controls to do much of anything, and I find that really confusing. Maybe they were trying to simplify the camera by having fewer options, but that having fewer options is not always better. You know, less is not always more. I find it odd, and that is the app. It's not the worst app in the world, but it's definitely not the best. So now we get to confusing thing number 6, and that is the Nexar Cloud. So like I said before, the app on your phone is supposedly constantly uploading all of these videos to the free Nexar Cloud. It will store all of your videos for free, and you log into the website, and here you see what is supposed to be all of your drives. But you'll also notice in this list a whole bunch of things that are labeled as time lapses. Now these are actually all there. These are kind of low quality 720p time lapses of each drive. These are not very useful. If you're in a wreck or you witness an accident or anything else, having a time lapse of it is not going to help you. You actually need the real footage. And I've been using this dash camera for 2 weeks. I have logged many, many hours with it, and I have yet to see it upload one single video to the cloud. Now you can see the drives listed here. It knows that I did all of these drives, and it does show the GPS track of the drive, but not once has it ever actually uploaded a single video. Now it wouldn't even matter if it did, because the uploaded video would still be the very low quality 720p version of it. So in conclusion, the Nexar Beam. I mean, this thing normally goes for about 120 bucks. It goes on sale every now and then. In fact, it was just on sale for Black Friday for only about 80 bucks. It's not a bad dash camera. I mean, if you ignore the fact that this whole cloud service and the downloading to your phone, all that's pretty much useless, and you ignore the fact that there are hardly any settings, if you just ignore all that, it's actually pretty decent, because, I mean, it does just work. It does take good quality videos. It does have a parking mode that does work. You can't configure it, but it's there. You know, and if you don't mind the kind of haphazard design of this with the external GPS unit and all the extra wires and all that, honestly, it's pretty good at what it's meant to do. I mean, recording videos is what a dash camera is for. So would this be my top pick? Absolutely not. But does this do a good job of dash camming? Yeah, it actually does in the end, even despite all the confusing aspects of it. So, you know, as always, you guys be the judge. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and thanks for watching.